So the last topic is the life advice segment, folks. You guys seem to enjoy my segment from last week, so we're going to do another one. So my advice this week would be don't tell girls your history with other girls if you're going to date them. Just don't do it. It's true for girls especially, a lot of times women will not want to tell you about their history. That's also true for guys. Guys, you shouldn't want to tell them either. Okay? Because it can come back to bite you in the ass. And I have a little story to tell you why. So, I matched with this girl on one of these ridiculous dating sites. Very pretty, blonde, my type. Seemingly, not trashy, sweet girl. So, and she's from a certain area where I live, and I know the area. So I go to meet her. We're on a little, cute little date. Things are going well. And then she starts to ask me about, my dating life and how many other girls, I've been with and girls I've dated. And, we were in the place she lived in was an area where I've dated other girls from or, had relationships with other girls from in the same area. So I mentioned this one girl that I knew was from the same area that this girl was from. And then when I mentioned this girl's name, her face turns fucking red. She gets livid and she was like, "You were with my friend?" And I was like, "Oh God, I didn't know you two were friends." Okay, I did not know. And this girl starts like going crazy on me. Not crazy, but she starts like kind of like spazzing out. Women, they always be spazzing out to some degree, but it's this girl like is really spazzing out. And I'm just like, and then she starts telling me things about me that I hadn't told her yet because I guess the other girl had talked to her about me. I had a little bit of a reputation, I guess. And she just starts like losing it. And I'm just like, calm down. I didn't know you guys were friends. And like, who cares? I'm not with her anymore. I'm on a date with you. Why do you care? But with women, guys, like probably the biggest thing that ends like a friendship between women is guys. They're just weird about it. If you ever, been friends with a girl or dated a girl, that and they deal with their friends, that's usually like the number one thing. That or like stealing each other's clothes or some retarded shit like that. But so this girl, and the day was going well, and she was very cute, and everything was good. But she's just like starts losing her mind because I had the audacity to date other women before I met her. And they happened to be friends. I didn't know they were friends. But I'm not supposed to be like a mind reader? First off, I thought it was kind of cute, to be honest. She didn't think it was cute. She thought it was like 10, 9, 11s had just happened on to her. It was just like, calm down. She starts to calm down a bit. And I'm just like, well, do you want me to leave or like what is the deal? And she doesn't do that. Instead, she calls her friend, puts her on speaker, and she starts saying, "I'm with you know who." And then they both start talking. And then this other girl, because I didn't leave her on good terms, she starts talking bad about me in front of this other girl. And I'm just like, I'm just sitting here, or wherever we were. I'm not going to give all the details. And this ex starts ranting about how terrible I am, which most of it wasn't true, by the way. Some of it was true, if I'm being honest, but most of it wasn't true. And it's like, it just was like terrible. It was like so awkward. It was just like, wow, I really shouldn't have told her about this. So I would recommend do not tell girls that you're on dates with much about your past romantic life. Unless you get really close. Don't do it on a first date. That was my mistake. Maybe do it if you're like 20 years into a marriage and there's no going back. But don't do it on a first date. It doesn't seem like a good idea. It was a mistake. And, and I don't think I'm going to be seeing this girl again anytime soon after that. But, so yeah, that's my advice this week. Don't tell girls about your romantic past, guys. Just don't do it. Now, look, to be fair, a lot of times girls sort of like guys that are able to pull girls. So if you can sort of imply without being specific that, you've had or you have had a past love life, that's not a bad thing. but don't go into specifics. That's not a good idea, as I found out. Especially considering, and again, I didn't know they were friends. And like they're like treating me like I'm the second coming of Hitler because again, I had the audacity to date other girls before I met this one. So anyway, she ends the phone call, and like 10 minutes later, I leave. So that's pretty much it for the story. Do not tell girls about your past love life, not the details. So that's my advice for the week. Kind of a funny story, Man, women, bro, you can't live with them. You can't live without them. I think I'm just going to be forever like a bachelor. I think I'll date girls, but I don't think I'm ever going to be locked down. I don't. That's just my personality type. I sort of get bored easily. And maybe I shouldn't say this. Probably shouldn't. This might come back to bite me in the ass, but women are just boring. I mean, once you get past how cute they are, it's just like, wow, I'm talking to you is like talking to like a brick wall. There's just nothing's clocking in with you. I can rarely talk politics with women, and when I can, they tend to be libtards, so that doesn't really work. They want to talk about all this drama crap that I don't care about, and I get it. I can get into drama too. I've had drama. I talked about that last week. I'm not above that. But women, like, drama and gossip is like oxygen for them. It's like, oh my God. I just sometimes, So, I think I'm just going to be a bachelor. Maybe when I get into my 40s, I'll try to settle down with a cute 19-year-old. I'm just kidding. No. I'm just kidding. No 19-year-olds. But, yeah, man, women, bro. Maybe I should try guys. I don't know. Well, maybe I've already had tried. Maybe I already have done that. I don't know. Let's not get into that. But, and the thing is, I would also recommend talking about life advice. I think for most guys, it probably is better if you settle down quickly with a girlfriend. I know people like to romanticize, if you're a guy at least. That's not the best word, though. They like the idea of, being the player, get with all this women. At the end of the day, folks, it's really not that fulfilling. I've done that at least to some degree. I've pulled more than some guys. I've pulled less than other guys. But I haven't had like one consistent girl really for a long time. Basically 4 years now. So I had like a relatively long-term relationship. And dating around is fun, but at the end of the day, it's not that fulfilling. You end up mistreating people that, in retrospect, you regret doing. And to a certain degree, dating should be about raising a family. That is the whole point of marriage, really. I mean, you shouldn't. If you're going to have kids, get married. If you're not going to have kids, maybe you shouldn't get married. But definitely, if you're going to have kids, get married. And settling, sticking with one woman, and I think for most guys, they're going to be more fulfilled than just sleeping around. Now, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I would personally feel less fulfilled if I had just been with one girl for the last 8 years. Don't know. But my advice, for what it's worth, is someone who has been with, again, there are guys who have been with much more women than me at this point in my life. I don't want to exaggerate. But I have been with women, and I don't necessarily feel the most fulfilled. It's fun at the time, but there's a part of me that's like, wow, I really need a fucking girlfriend. Because then, like I said, you keep having these new interactions with people, and you have no idea how it's going to go. The date with this new girl was going great until I brought up the fact that I hooked up with one of her friends, and she loses her shit. And I get called the second coming of Hitler. So that's sort of the downside of dating around, So anyway, that's my advice. Maybe stick with one girl once you get into your mid-20s. And if you're going to go on a bunch of dates, don't go into details about your love life with other girls. It's just not worth the risk. Anyway, that's it for the podcast today. Thanks for listening, folks. I hope you enjoyed the personal segment. I hope you enjoyed this new format with a weekly wrap. I'll be posting clips over the weekend. Thanks for listening, folks. Again, please subscribe, whether it's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Please like and subscribe. Like and comment if you're on YouTube. I would really appreciate it, folks. We'll be back on Monday. Bye-bye.